Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Shauna. Thank you for joining us today. In this video, I'm going to be doing let me get the title right, the mid-year book freakout tag. Usually in these videos, I am freaking out because we're halfway through the year and I have not accomplished hardly any of my reading goals. But I feel good this year. I have been doing so well. I have been staying on top of reading and trying new things and reading different genres, reading new authors, discovering new things, and I've been really proud of myself this year. So this is gonna be a good one, and thank you for tuning in to my lonely little YouTube channel. So the first question is, what is the best book you've read so far this year? This one was hard because I actually used this particular book in several questions, like planning this video out, and I was answering the questions because I have to jog my memory on like what I've read and go through my Goodreads. So I use this one a lot, but it's a good one. So I would have to say the best book that I've read so far this year is The Stationery Shop by Marjan Kamali. I just recently posted a video with my latest 3-month wrap up, and I mentioned this book in that video, and it's so good. It's so good. And I've got a couple of people reading it now because I recommended it and they're loving it, and I'm so excited. Like it's such a good book. If you want to know what it's about and all of my thoughts and feelings on it, go check out that other video. I'll link it down below in the description. But we'll just keep moving on to the next question. The second question in this tag is the worst book you've read so far this year. And I don't want to dwell on this because I don't like talking negatively about authors or books, but I do have to say there's going to be books you love, there's going to be books you hate. And I didn't hate these, but they definitely weren't my favorites. I actually had to choose two because they were just so bad. But it was Covet by Tracy Wolff and Hunted by PC and Kristen Cast. I just say Hunted in there also because I remember reading it the first time around and thinking it was bad, and then I did a reread of it this year and it was still bad. It did not get any better. Covet by Tracy Wolff is part of her series, like her vampire werewolf magic series, and it just, I talk about this one in another video as well. If you're interested, go check that one out. I'll link it down below. I'm gonna just leave it at that. It was not good. Probably 15-year-old Shauna would have loved this series and ate it up, but 26-year-old Shauna is like, there's a lot of issues with this book. The next question is best series you've read so far this year. And I actually haven't read too many series this year. I was very surprised when I was looking back at everything I've read. So I didn't have a whole lot to choose from, but even still, I probably still would have chosen this series. And it is the Caraval series by Stephanie Garber. This was so good. And again, I mentioned in another video, I talk about all of these books at some point in some videos, but this one was very atmospheric. It was so good. The story was good. The characters were good. Like it just had so many twists and turns, and I just love the world that she created. It was so cool and so engaging, and I flew through this series. It was so good. The next question is, what was it? Okay, a new release you haven't read yet, but you really want to. And that is Book Lovers by Emily Henry. So I actually haven't read anything by Emily Henry yet. It's on my TBR, it's been on my TBR for forever, and I've yet to read any of her stuff, but I've heard Book Lovers was really good, and I remember it being a very anticipated read for the year, and people went crazy for it when it came out. So, and it was very recent that it just came out. So it's on my TBR. I've added it. I actually have the book. I just have yet to sit down and read it. So that's definitely on my must list. I have to read this year. So it's that one. Okay, so the next one, I'm just gonna kind of go through quickly because it's your most anticipated read for the second half of the year. I don't even know what's coming out. I tried to do some research and try to figure out like, okay, well, what's coming out? What am I looking forward to? What am I excited about? And there was nothing on the list that I knew of. So I didn't really have an answer to this one, unfortunately. So we'll just keep trucking along. Okay, your biggest surprise for this year. And I have to say it again, The Stationery Shop by Marjan Kamali, because this one just was so unexpected. I picked this up at my work. I work in a library, and I just didn't expect to love it as much as I did. It sounded great. It sounded cute. I was really excited to read it when I found it, but it wasn't something that I thought was gonna blow me out of the water like it did. And I will probably talk about this book so many more times throughout all of these videos because I want to keep coming back to it. I want to purchase my own copy now because it was just so good. And I feel like everyone should go read this book now. The next question is favorite new author. So this one was hard to choose because there were so many new authors that I read this year, new to me, and it was really hard to decide. So I kind of based this off of, all right, well, if this author in particular put out something new, would I go get it no matter what it was about? And I narrowed it down to Rupi Kaur. She is a poet, and I've read now all of her poetry collections, and they're all so good and so relatable, and I just couldn't get enough of them. Flew through them too, and she only has, I think, 3 collections out as far as I'm aware. So she is still kind of a somewhat new author. She has been out for several years, but I think that she's gained a lot of traction in the past couple of years because she's also done tours with her poetry collections now. So she's gained a lot of popularity. But she's still newer to me. In this past year, I've just started reading her poetry collections, and they were fabulous. And I feel like no matter what she puts out, I will probably run to the bookstore to get. So she has to be my new favorite author from this year. Okay, this is gonna be an interesting question to answer in front of Tony because he is sitting off to the side now. So this question is your newest favorite fictional crush. This is gonna be interesting to answer in front of him too because he started to read this series, but I have to say Legend is my new he's so confused. Do you have anything to say?
Like the legend?
The legend. The person Legend. Y'all, he's dreamy. He's so swoon worthy. He's so good. And it's funny because I actually got Tony to read Caraval, the first book in the series. He listened to the audiobook, and they don't have, at least on Scribd, they don't have the second book out on audiobook yet, so he's yet to read books 2 and 3. And you find out who Legend is in the rest of the series, and I gotta say, he's up there as a fictional crush because he's awesome. He's badass. All right, moving right along. I'm just gonna move past that last question. So this is a book that made you cry. So I've said it before, so I added another book into this answer because I didn't want to just keep giving the same answer or the same book for every question. But I definitely have to mention Stationery Shop. It made me cry. I lost it. There were tears. It was sad. But I will also mention They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera. It's in the freaking title. Like, of course you're gonna cry with this book. Even though you know what happens and you're expecting it throughout the entire book. I think that's what made it so sad, was the fact that you knew what was gonna happen and you kept having to remind yourself instead of thinking, you think maybe they can make it. Maybe they'll be the 2 that beat the system and they can, it's in the title. Like, you can't trick yourself out of this one. And so it hits you in waves throughout this book, and definitely by the end I was in tears. It was such a good read, but definitely one that made me cry. All right, the next question is, what is a book that made you happy? So this one I haven't actually talked about yet because I just finished it like last week. And that is One Italian Summer by Rebecca Serle. This just made my heart happy. It was so sweet and sad, but it was very sweet, and it was set in Italy. So, I mean, you can't go wrong with that. Like, just the way that she described the scenery and all the food she was eating, and it just made my heart so happy. Like, it felt like a good summer read, and especially if you're on a vacation, that would be the best time to read this book. I read this at home for the most part, or at work, and it just made me want to go on vacation. It made me want to visit Italy. It made me want to just soak up the sun and jump in an ocean and just live life. And it was such, like I said, sad book, but it just made my heart feel good. So I had to say that for this book. It made me really happy. All right, so moving on to the next question. It is the most beautiful book that you've bought or received as a gift this year. So I don't think I've gotten any books as gifts so much this year. Natasha gave me a couple, but I haven't really been purchasing books lately. Hardly at all, because I work at a library now, and so it's very easy to just get whatever book you want. And also I've been trying to read a lot what's on my shelf, so trying to slowly whittle through that while also being bombarded with cool books at the library. I haven't really purchased many books for myself lately. So I struggled with this a little bit, but I will say I have two, but this first one I did buy this year, technically, because I bought this book and didn't realize I already had a copy on my shelf, and I realized it once I got home, and I was like, oh, I thought this sounded familiar, but I thought I didn't buy it, but I had, so I got to get rid of one copy. But it still technically counts because I bought one this year, and that is Once There Were Wolves, and it's by Charlotte McConaghy, and I don't know why, but I think this cover is beautiful. I think it fits the book so well, and it's eerie, and I like the eerie kind of forest woodsy vibes, and it's about wolves, so it's really cool. So I had to go with this one because I actually did buy this one this year. But I will say one of the most beautiful like books, I mean, besides this one, of course, because this one is freaking gorgeous. But I didn't get that one this year. So Tony gave that to me for Christmas, I think like 2 years ago now. But the other one that I own that I love is actually a boxed collection of poetry, and I freaking love this box set. And it's called Something Broken, Something Beautiful by Robert M. Drake. And I think, and this is the box, like the box itself is beautiful alone. But these are just like some of the covers. Every cover is different for each of the books, but they all have that same unique kind of style. And I just think they're so pretty. So I didn't get this one this year. I got this, I think last year or the year before. But I've only just recently picked it up and started reading them. So I just wanted to give them like an honorary mention because I just love them. They're so pretty. We made it to the last question, and that is, what book or books do you need to read by the end of the year? There's a lot. So I tried to narrow this down as much as possible. And I did that to 2 books, basically. And that is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. This one, I have been needing and craving reading it, and yet I still have yet to pick it up. Don't ask me why. I don't know. It has eluded me, and I've never just gone to pick it up. There's always been something else I've needed or wanted to read before. So, and I feel like I need to be emotionally prepared to read it from what I've heard. So I'm trying to brace myself, but I definitely want to read it by the end of this year. That is one of my goals. I will finish it by the end of this year. The other one that I definitely want to mention is Verity by Colleen Hoover. Everyone has been telling me to read this book, and I only just got into Colleen Hoover in the past several months, end of last year, beginning of this year. I just started reading her books and love them. I read It Ends With Us and Ugly Love. Those were the two that I've read. Obviously, those are like the biggest, some of the biggest ones on BookTube as far as Colleen Hoover goes. Verity is right up there with them, and I have yet to read it. So that's on my list. I'm going to read it by the end of this year, both of them, because I own both copies, so I have no excuse. I need to read them by the end of the year. So I will make that my goal. All right, everybody, so that is the end of this video. Thanks so much for watching. If you've read any of these books or done a tag yourself, comment down below. I would love to check out your guys' videos if you make videos. If you have books you want to share with me, like if you want to answer these questions and just share them with me, that's cool too. I love that. Let's talk. If you love this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps out my channel. If you are new here and you want to stick around, I would love it if you subscribe. Just hit that subscribe button down below. But other than that, I will see you guys in my next video very soon. Bye.